Hey, Mr. Riley here with 3 topics on statistics. You will need a calculator and a piece of paper for the example problems here as we go through these different ways to analyze data. Statistics, the study of collecting and organizing and interpreting information. It's used in all kinds of applications in business, in science, in social sciences. Everybody, lots and lots of people use statistics. So the first topic is should be a review. We've done this in the 6th grade and maybe even before, and that topic is what we call measures of center, or sometimes called measures of central tendency. Okay, and these are ways that you can represent a bunch of numbers with one number, like the way we represent all of the grades that you get for a semester. We represent all of them with one number that we call your average, okay? And that's the most common one, is the average. Of course, the math word for average is mean, okay? And you've learned, or you kind of know that these go together: mean, median, and mode. Mean, another word for average. The mean one to calculate, that's where you add up all of the numbers in the data set and you divide by how many numbers there are. The median is the middle, and the mode, the one that occurs the most. So again, this should be review, a quick review of these 3 measures of center. They give you some numbers here of how many people there are in the House of Representatives from different states. The mean, or average, you add up all the numbers and you divide by how many there are. There are 10 numbers here. You add them all up, divide by 10, and your mean, or average, is 23.4 representatives. To get the median, you put them all in order. Can't forget to do that. That's the first step. Put them in order from least to greatest. And then some people like the crossing them off method, right? So you cross off one from both ends, cross off the last ones, and then cross off another set. And you cross off another set like that. And another set. And then you're either left with 2 numbers or 1 number in the middle. If there are 2 numbers in the middle, you take the average of those 2 numbers. If they're the same, then that's obviously the number. Okay, you add the 2 numbers and divide by 2 to get halfway, or you can just do it in your head. You guys can. Or if there's only 1 number left, when you have an odd number of data values, then there's 1 number in the middle. That 1 number is the median. So the median here is 18 representatives. And then finally, the mode. The mode is the one that occurs the most often. You can have no mode. If none of the numbers are repeated in your data set, you have no mode. You can have 1 mode if 1 number occurs most often. You can have multiple modes if more than 1 number occurs most often, which is the case here. There's 2 18s and 2 27s. So the modes in this set of data are 18 and 27. So I'm going to assume from previous work that you can do mean, median, and mode, okay? And so the other thing to do with these measurements, just to remind you that range, okay, range is, where did I put that? Range is also, it's later on, okay. So here's a problem here. You have the ages of people in the Fitzgerald house family and the ages of people in the Cordero family, and you're comparing the means and the medians for these 2 families, okay? So the first thing to do when you do a bunch of data like this is to set up for the median, okay? It tells you a lot to put the data in order from least to greatest when it's not given to you that way. So you put them in order from least to greatest. The Fitzgeralds look like this, okay? And oops, shouldn't have given you the answer there. We'll cut that out. All right, so here's a problem where you're going to compare means and medians for 2 families. So they give you a bunch of ages for the Fitzgerald family, a bunch of ages for the Cordero family. The first thing you should do is calculate the median, right? So you put them all in order from least to greatest. And the median for the Fitzgerald company, the middle number is the median age for the Fitzgeralds is 22. I should put units on all these. 22 years old. Okay, and then, oops, you can see the answer to the next one. The Cordero family, you put them in order from least to greatest. They got a bunch of kids there in the Cordero family, plus grandpa or something. The median for this group, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means there's 2 numbers in the middle. And if you get the average of those 2 numbers, 5 and 9. So if you can't just in your head figure out the middle of 5 and 9, add them together and divide by 2, and you get 7 years. 7 years for the median age of the Cordero family. Okay. Then doing the mean, add them all up, divide by how many there are. The mean for Fitzgerald's is 31.4 years old. The mean for the Cordero family, add them all up, add up to 133, divide by the 6 ages, and you get 22.17 years. Sometimes you'll get rounding instructions on these. Other times, just round it to something reasonable. Okay. And then it says compare the means and the medians for the 2 families. So you recognize if you look at the 2 medians here that the Cordero median age is 15 years lower than Fitzgerald's. Okay, way lower. Their mean age is only about 9, right? Only about 9 years lower. And the reason for that is that the median gives all these young whippersnappers here more weight in the finding the middle of the ages. Okay. All right. So that's it for mean, median, and mode. But for calculating them. But a good question is, well, why, when do you ever use these other ones? And you should recognize that there's times, depending on your data, one of these values is the more appropriate or better measure of center to use for that particular application. Okay, so the mean is normally the most common best choice is to just calculate the average. Okay, and it's the best one as long as all the numbers are basically in a group. Okay, you don't have any extremely high or extremely low values that would throw off the average and not have it really be a measure of the middle of all of the data. So when that's the case and you have extreme values, then you use the median. Okay, the median is also useful when there aren't any large gaps in the middle of the data, right? So as long as you don't have like a bunch in the middle, some low and some high and big gaps in the middle, then the median is okay. And it accounts for having values on the extremes. For example, the house prices in a town are almost always reported as median house prices because they don't want the $5 million house. There's one $5 million house on the beach somewhere that if you average that in with all of the regular $100,000 and $200,000 houses, it seems like the average house price is going to be way higher than it's not really representing the center of all of those house prices. That's why for house prices, the middle is always reported as the median. And the mode is typically used in production when you have lots of repeated numbers. If you have, lots of numbers close together and many of them are the same number repeated, then the best measure of the center of those numbers is the one that occurs the most. It's not very common, except in manufacturing things, a common place to use mode. Okay, so which one is appropriate, and then calculate it. They give you an example here. Temperatures from the previous week. Which measure of center is the best one to use, and then calculate it. So you look for extreme values, right? Is there anything that looks way higher or lower than the rest of the numbers here? Nah, they're all between 80 and 91. So they're pretty close together. So the average is going to be fine. The mean is going to be perfectly fine for this set of data. So calculate the mean. It's 86 degrees. That's the average temperature. The best, the temperature is basically around 86 degrees for this week. All right, so one for you. This table shows Pablo's sit-ups that he does in a minute for the past 7 days. Which measure of center is the best one to use? And then, figure out what it is. Okay, so which measure of center is the best one to use for this set of data? The answer is, Okay, if you list them in order, which kind of helps to get this organized, you might recognize that there is an extreme value. 19 is way lower than the rest of these numbers. Okay, these are all kind of in a group, and then 19 is way lower. Okay, so when there's an extreme value, the median is your best measure of center. And the median of this set of data is, there are 7 numbers, so the middle one is 45 sit-ups. 45 sit-ups. That's the best measure of the center. You know, you say the average that which you put. What's the basic number of sit-ups that he's doing every day? And I calculated the mean down here, and you see that the mean comes out to 40. Okay, that 19 adding in there drags this number down pretty far. I mean, 40, these last couple, these two here are down close to 40. So it's not that much, it's not that extreme of a value. It didn't affect the mean that much, but 45 is a better measure of center for these numbers than 40. Okay, so that's mean, median, and mode. One other use for these is that sometimes you might want to make sure that you're using the better measure of center for whatever your purpose is, like the wait times for rides at an amusement park. They have a whole bunch of them, and so would it be better to advertise the mean or the median to show that the wait times are? Well, the mean comes out to 33 minutes and the median comes out to 23. So if you were advertising, you'd want to advertise a short wait time, use the median, okay? And you're really allowed to say average and use the median, but you could just make the statement that our wait times are about 23.5 minutes on average. Okay, so the word average is can be confusing with mean because it really is the same thing as mean when you calculate it, but median is also a measure of the center, and the word average is sort of generically used for the measure of center in some places. Okay, so there'll be some IXL topics, problems to do on mean, median, mode, and range. Definitely need a calculator for those, although some of them you can do in your head. Obviously, medians you need to write down on a piece of paper so you can put them in order from least to greatest. There are range calculations in this topic also because range is typically thrown in with mean, median, and mode up before 7th grade. Range is not a measure of center. Range is actually a measure of variability, which is the next topic that we're going to cover. Okay. But in the IXL, you will get range calculations. We'll talk about them in the next lesson.